Not somebody I talk about on this show on a regular basis. If you recall, Donald Trump gave Rush Limbaugh the Medal of Freedom Award. I've been very consistent on Rush Limbaugh. I think for decades he has shown that he is a racist. He says misogynistic things on his show. He said a number of racist things on his show. Do I have to give you, examples of it? Playing a song like Barack the Magic Negro should be enough for you. But he has a long history of racist, misogynistic, and hateful things towards homosexuals. This is for decades. This hasn't happened recently. It's been happening for a very, very long time. Now, I have no idea why during this situation, when it comes to minorities and racial tensions, that Rush Limbaugh decided to go on the Breakfast Club radio show. Now, if you don't know what the Breakfast Club radio show is, you have three African Americans doing a morning radio show in what is one of the most popular, if not the most popular morning radio show right now in the country. It just is. I mean, they have tons of listeners. So for whatever reason, Rush Limbaugh asked some of his people, I want to do an interview with some African Americans. I want to do an interview with some African Americans that have a huge audience. And they recommended the Breakfast Club, and I actually agree with that. The Breakfast Club, like I said, they're an extremely popular show. Rush made himself look like a complete clown that he is. Okay, this was not Rush Limbaugh trying to entertain people on his radio show. This was Rush Limbaugh attempting to have a very serious conversation with all three members of the Breakfast Club, including Charlemagne the God. That's another story, by the way. Anyone who calls himself a god has issues. But anyway, that's another story. But so Rush goes on this show, and of course you have three African Americans that are asking him, and they were very respectful to him. They weren't asking him questions about his past. I mean, you could just talk for hours about some of the horrible things that Rush Limbaugh has said about minorities in his career. But they didn't do that. They were, to their credit, they were asking him questions about the issues facing minorities and why there are protests throughout the country. So I want to start with this. Rush Limbaugh was asked about white supremacy. Remember Tucker Carlson when he said the idea of white supremacy is a hoax? We had 22 people that died in a Walmart store in El Paso. Obviously, white supremacy exists. There's no logical human being that would say white supremacy does not exist. It does. So Rush Limbaugh was asked about that on a show with three African Americans, and he basically denied the idea of white supremacy. It's unbelievable. Have a listen to this.
White supremacy or white privilege is a construct of today's Democrat Party, and I'm not going to agree with any aspect of it as they put it forth. I'm not denying that there are certain individuals out there who think they're better than other people, but structurally, institutionally, white supremacy, it's a construct.
All right, first of all, that is completely laughable and disgusting. Again, do I have to mention some of the horrific crimes that white supremacists have done? I mentioned El Paso, where 22 people died. I'll go right to Las Vegas. Do we recall the story that we covered on this show 6 months ago? And 6 months ago, police arrested a man who made a bunch of serious threats. And he wanted to go into synagogues and kill Jewish people and go into bars and kill homosexuals. Police got tipped off and they arrested this man, a known white supremacist. So not only is Rush Limbaugh flat out wrong because he is a clown and a moron and a racist, but he goes on a show with three African Americans who basically at that point were laughing at him. This is where the interview went very sour. To go on this show and to say something that is so factually inaccurate and to say it during this time that we are living in now, where we have so much racial tension and divide, and there are protests literally in every state across the country, and yet there are people out there that look up to Rush Limbaugh as some sort of hero when he denies that white supremacy even exists. This man is so sheltered, and he is so ignorant. It is just unbelievable. The ignorance is oozing out of his fat ass. It is unbelievable to me. And it is so disgusting. And this is the guy that receives the Medal of Freedom Award. Let me repeat that once again. This is the guy that receives the Medal of Freedom Award for Donald Trump, who claims in his mind that white supremacy doesn't exist.
But Donald Trump didn't give him that after he made a statement like this. This was before. So don't lump in Trump thinking the things that Rush Limbaugh thinks, because Trump gave him this Medal of Freedom 4 or 5 months ago, Brian.
Okay, so let's go with that.
No,
for a
let
second.
us go. Yeah, let's
sure,
go with
sure.
that.
Would you like me to name some of the things Rush Limbaugh said in his career before he got the award? Would you like me to do that? Would you like me to talk about him playing Barack the Magic Negro on his show before he got the award? Would you like me to talk about how he called Sandra Fluke a whore? Would you like me to talk about how he said Michael J. Fox was overdoing his mannerisms in an advertisement trying to help people? Would you like me to talk about how Rush Limbaugh, before he got the award, was actually fired from ESPN? Hold on. Was fired from ESPN before he received the Medal of Freedom Award. So, there you go.
Again, Brian, Donald Trump did not give him the Medal of Freedom after he said something like he does not agree with white supremacy being a thing, that he thinks it's more of a construct created by the Democratic
Party. So I'll even
Party.
take it a step further.
So that's where that
You're
particular
wrong.
part of it
He
ends.
has made that statement on his show for years. He has made that statement, and I will find you the clip.
Yeah, find me some audio where
Would
Rush
you like
Limbaugh.
to make another bet?
No, we're not making any wagers. I'm done wagering.
I don't
with
blame you. I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
You don't blame me.
I don't blame you for not, because you're wrong on this. He has said this
Again,
before.
you can find me. You can find me some audio. That's fine. But
you
Donald
find
Trump did not give him the medal. Well, you're trying to lump in Donald Trump with Rush Limbaugh in their exact same thought process.
Donald Trump.
Rush Limbaugh has a show. He has a base. He is an entertainer. We've had this conversation many times over. He's also a revolutionary in the radio business.
So what?
Just like Howard Stern.
He's also a racist.
Howard Stern. Well, I mean,
now you want to bring up Howard Stern.
You could argue that Howard
Stern never accepted the Medal of Freedom Award, so that has nothing to do with
again,
this conversation.
I'm saying revolutionaries in radio. You could argue that Howard Stern
not talking about
actually wants 10,000 or more Donald Trump supporters to die.
What does that have to do with this conversation? What does that have to do with this conversation? Howard Stern never got the Medal of Freedom Award. What does that have to do with this conversation?
The problem is you are trying to lump in Donald Trump with the exact same thought process that Rush Limbaugh has.
So here's why I'm doing that, and I will repeat myself again because I don't know if you heard me.
Because you never give Donald Trump credit for anything, and you have an inherent hatred for him.
Again, you're mentioning things that make no sense to this conversation.
That's why you're doing this.
No,
let's keep
you're
this.
not making any
Let's
sense.
keep this about Rush Limbaugh. Let's not bring Donald Trump into this conversation.
So last
Brian.
I checked,
you want to attack Rush Limbaugh?
Last I checked,
relentlessly. Feel free, but don't bring Donald Trump into the conversation.
Last I checked, the reason why I'm bringing Donald Trump into the conversation is because he gave this man the Medal of Freedom Award. So you're damn right I'm going to bring him into the conversation.
Because you clearly have Trump derangement syndrome.
Okay, well, you have Trump fellatio syndrome.
You've been accused of it. You've been accused of it thousands of times.
All right, okay,
and every single person that has accused you of it is 100% correct.
Okay, all right. So another ridiculous JD argument.
That being said, is white supremacy real? Absolutely. Of course, there are white supremacists out there. I have admitted that multiple times. How could I not?
Thank you for admitting
that. There have been crimes committed by clear white supremacists. Why are you interrupting me?
Okay, the argument that you made, which is a ridiculous argument, the argument that you made is that, well, don't put Donald Trump into this because he made these statements after Trump gave him the Medal of Freedom. And I am telling you right now, face to face, that Rush Limbaugh for years, has said white supremacy doesn't exist and it was made up by liberals. So you are factually wrong. And I gave out a number of different things that Rush Limbaugh has said over the years before Donald Trump gave him this award. Now, you're right.
And has Donald Trump ever made any statements like that before? We know Tucker Carlson kind of did. Has Donald Trump?
Donald Trump has a history of
making
you're saying,
and now, basically, now you're making.
I don't want to make this about Donald Trump.
You did. That's what you did.
I mentioned that he got the Medal of Freedom Award, and I would like to go on to the next clip.
Because you want to make this about Donald Trump.
I would like
clearly.
to,
otherwise, you wouldn't have done that.
Donald Trump.
What I'm saying is, you don't know that that's the only reason why, or that is the sole reason why Donald Trump gave Rush Limbaugh the Medal of Freedom Award.
You're making
it sound like that's why he did it, because he believes in that.
Okay, well, you're right. He deserved the award. I'll praise
Rush Limbaugh is
you're right. I agree with you.
He did deserve the award, but so did Howard Stern.
He deserved. Howard Stern is not a part of this conversation. Wait. Howard Stern.
I'm bringing up Howard Stern because that's why Rush Limbaugh got the award.
Howard has nothing to do with
He has been a revolutionary in radio for 30-plus years, just like Howard Stern
is.
And he's also a racist. They're both qualified to do it.
And Howard Stern wouldn't accept the award, and Howard is not a racist. End of conversation. The second clip that I was trying to get to, and the only thing I mentioned was that this man got the Medal of Freedom Award from the president. And the ignorant remark that you made right after I said that was, oh, don't put Donald Trump into this because he made these statements 5 or 6 months after Trump gave him the award. And then I named you 5 or 6 awful things that Rush Limbaugh has said in his career. I could name you hundreds more. You can't defend that.
No,
now I'm going to move on to the next
We've gone
segment.
over this multiple times, Brian, and I agreed with you. The day after it happened, we had the same conversation.
Okay, so then why are you defending Trump? So?
No, I'm talking about Rush Limbaugh possibly being a racist.
And you're defending Trump getting the Medal of Freedom
or at least believing that his base.
Okay.
Or at least Barack Obama gave up a lot of Medal of Freedom awards.
There
Brian.
we go. Now we're
no,
going
he
to
did.
We're going to talk about Howard Stern and Barack Obama. Okay, let's move on to
I'm
the next
saying
book.
the reason why Trump gave him that award is because of his achievements in radio. Just like Howard Stern would have been qualified for the same award. Whether he accepts it or not, there is a correlation there.
You're right. The guy who plays the song Barack the Magic Negro on his shirt certainly deserves the Medal of Freedom Award. I completely agree with you. Rush is a great guy. So as far as Rush Limbaugh, here's a second remark that he made that maybe you will or will not defend. I don't know. But Rush Limbaugh saying that he can relate to the struggles of black people, and then he gives a few examples of his own of some of the struggles that he's gone through. Again, this is on The Breakfast Club. Have a listen to this.
We're all mistreated. I've been fired 9 times in my career.
But have you ever got thrown out your car because you were driving a nice car?
Have
you ever got just patted down just for being black?
Yeah, I've had my
sure
car. I've had my car keyed. I've had my tires blown up. Of course.
I'm talking about thrown out your car by a police officer because you're black driving a nice car, or walking down the street in Queens, the area where you're from, and the police pulling you over and patting you down. Has these things happened to you? Don't talk about keying a car. I done got shot at. They didn't shot up my car. Don't talk about keying a car and popping your tire. I'm talking about police officers pulling you out because you're black.
See, I'm
because
a hermit.
you did nothing.
I'm a hermit and recluse, and I don't go out and do all that kind of stuff. No, that.
All right, so a little context there. These 3 African Americans on The Breakfast Club are saying, have you had to go through what, African Americans have to go through with law enforcement? His first response is, yes, of course, I'm the victim. I've been fired 9 times. I can relate to African Americans because my car was keyed. This guy is the biggest dumbass, literally. The fact that he would respond that way. You know what a normal person would respond? Someone with empathy, someone who's not a racist. Here's the way a normal person would respond. No, I don't. And the reason why I don't know what African Americans have to go through on a regular basis, because I'm not African American. But not Rush Limbaugh. I've been fired 9 times in my career. I know what African Americans have to go through. 9 times I've been fired. Guys, my car has been keyed. Maybe because you're an a-hole. Maybe that's why your car has been keyed.
You can't justify why someone's car is being keyed, Brian.
So can you justify his statement?
Let's say he's got a $300,000
So
Lamborghini and it gets keyed. How much is that damage? That's a big deal.
So you're justifying.
I'm not justifying that at all. But you're downplaying someone getting their car keyed. That can be a big deal for somebody else. So obviously, Rush Limbaugh has never been thrown out of his vehicle for being
he's too large
a specific race.
He's too big.
Okay, whatever.
He's too large.
But that doesn't make any sense, Brian.
Take 4 cops to pull him out of the car. He's too big. That's the way
He's lost a lot of weight over the years, Brian.
Congratulations.
He also has stage 4 lung cancer. You should laugh about that.
That has nothing to do.
Laugh about it.
That has
just
nothing
do it.
to
Just
do
laugh a couple of
Well,
times.
if you want to be an idiot and put me in a corner because the man has cancer and you think that's going to change my opinion on him as a person, you're sorely mistaken, my friend. You're going to lose that argument. So if you want to do that, then it makes you look dumb. Okay, I'm not going to do that with you. If you want to, he's got cancer, so you can't say anything negative about him. No, you're wrong. I can.
I'm not suggesting that you can't say anything negative about him.
Well, then why would you bring up the fact he has cancer? It's a stupid argument.
Why'd you call him large?
Because he is. He's a fat pig.
Well, he also has cancer.
Nothing to do with me calling him a fat pig.
And I don't think he's a fat pig.
He's a pig. The way with the things he says on his show for years, for decades, he's a pig. Calling Sandra Fluke a whore, which is what he did, a slut. Okay, going after Michael J. Fox for having Parkinson's, playing the song Barack the Magic Negro, saying that African Americans couldn't excel.
Stop the checklist. Let's move on.
No, I'm not going to stop the checklist until you stop saying stupid stuff on this show, like you say, bringing up the fact that he has cancer, which has absolutely zero to do with this conversation. You want me to give Rush Limbaugh sympathy? Yeah. No, I won't.
And neither does his weight.
I won't.
Neither does his weight, Brian. What I said was, I'm sure he hasn't been thrown out of his car, and you interrupted me and said, yeah, that's because he's so fat, because it would take 4 people to throw him out of the car.
That's right. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to mock the man who mocks others.
What I'm saying is that obviously Rush Limbaugh has not been thrown out of a car like Charlemagne the God has for his race, clearly. So he cannot relate on that level.
He can't relate on any level when it comes to minorities. Clearly, based on these answers of these 2 questions, he can't relate.
Guys, Brian, you forgot one little tidbit from your checklist. Sean,
what's that? If you don't recall, ladies and gentlemen, that was Rush Limbaugh mocking the former president of China, Medal of Freedom winner, great guy, really deserving of the award, by the way. My question, okay, Stein, so you book guests on this show. That's what you do. So if you're one of Rush Limbaugh's people, why on earth would you put Rush Limbaugh, knowing that he's going to say ignorant, stupid, racist stuff? Why would you put him on that show? That's what I don't understand.
I wouldn't, and I don't know. Maybe Rush overruled him. Maybe Rush wanted to go on the show. Maybe there's a cross promotion going on. Maybe they're part of the same company or something. I don't know what good it does Rush Limbaugh, but I think it's an incredible get for the Breakfast Club.
Oh, it's a huge get for the Breakfast Club.
And by the way, the
Huge.
idea,
and they're both iHeart. They're both owned by Premier.
the idea,
So there's a correlation.
the idea that you can't make fun of somebody, or the idea that you can't mock somebody or go after somebody for stupid racist remarks because they have a disease is absurd. I'll tell you one thing I'll never do to Rush Limbaugh. I'll tell you one thing I would never do, or anybody for that matter. I would never, ever accuse Rush Limbaugh of lying about his cancer. I would never accuse him of saying, well, he doesn't have stage 4. Look at him. He looks great. That's something I would never do as a human being. But guess what? That's something Rush Limbaugh has done. When it came to Michael J. Fox and his Parkinson's, Rush Limbaugh questioned his Parkinson's. That's what Rush Limbaugh did. And the idea that you cannot go after somebody and criticize somebody and mock somebody who has mocked for decades minorities, homosexuals, and women is ridiculous. And yes, I stand by my comments. I think he's a pig and he happens to be fat, so that makes him a fat pig. And I stand by those comments. And just because he has cancer doesn't mean I can't go after him, and I will.
Well, he's not fat anymore, Brian.
Oh, well, good for him.
You could talk about
maybe
Rush.
Maybe he found a salad for once
Rush
in his life.
1995, Rush early 2000s, but Rush right now, he is not fat anymore.
Well, good for him. I'm glad he's in wonderful shape. Maybe somebody gave him a salad.
He's obviously not in wonderful shape, Brian. He's on cancer treatment.
Well, I'm not talking about his cancer.
Oh, well,
treatment.
that's
that
why
has nothing to do with this conversation. Nothing.
You brought about
Nothing.
the shape of his body. I'm
I
saying
was mocking him.
He has cancer treatment every single day. He misses shows. He made a statement a couple of weeks ago that he can't walk 5 steps without getting tired.
Well, I'll tell you one thing he can do: make ignorant statements on the radio. He's very good at that. Make racist, homophobic remarks, misogynistic remarks. He's very good at that. Whether he's sick or healthy, he's very good.
And
at
he
that.
said several times that there's a good chance that he won't be able to keep doing the show in a couple of months.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I have no sympathy for the man. I don't care. People that don't have empathy for others, I'm not going to have empathy for them. I don't care. I don't care. Something happens to the man, I feel for his family and friends. Nothing wrong. They did nothing wrong. I feel for them. Don't feel anything for that man because he doesn't feel anything for others. He has no empathy. And in that interview, you can hear it in his voice. He has no empathy for minorities and what they've had to go through. He has no empathy for people that have been victims of hate crimes like white supremacy. None, zero.
Did he say that specifically? Or are you assuming that because of the tone of his voice?
Not an assumption.
Because I think you just said because of the tone of his voice
ridiculous.
that he doesn't have empathy for people.
You can hear
or any minority. So, yes, so it is an assumption based on the tone of his voice.
Do me a favor, and we have to take a break. Have a listen to that entire interview, and then you tell me if he showed empathy towards minorities. I did. He didn't.